Hello and welcome to part two of my three-part conversation with Guy Nirpaz from Totango on the topic of 4 challenges for the customer success profession in 2021. If you have not as yet either viewed or listened to part one, I suggest you stop the recording and go and find part one first, because this is the follow-on of that same conversation. And this is part two. We released part one on Christmas Eve. We have released this part today on December the 28th, and part 3 will be available on New Year's Day. Please do subscribe as a member at practicalcsm.com, and that way we can actually send you a notification when the final part is available. But for now, enjoy part 2. Thank you very much. Adapt and survive. If you don't adapt to rapidly changing environment that you inhabit, you're not going to survive as an animal. You're not going to survive as a business. I think that's a great point. I think that the amount of change that is occurring means that we have to be even more agile and even more adaptive than we were before. I think your example and your illustration from the world of software development, moving from the waterfall approach to development, where you work it all out in advance down to the last detail, and then you code it all, and then you eventually release it 3 years later and hope it's what customers want, is the old model compared to the agile model, where you develop a minimum viable product, get it out as quickly as possible, get feedback. What's good about it? What do you like? What don't you like? And change it and get it out again, and get feedback and change it and get it out again, and continue to work with your customers and understand their changing needs, and change what you are doing to respond to those changing needs is going to suit your customer, and is therefore going to make your customer more likely to be able to stay with you, as opposed to, I'm sorry, but all our as we said, all those strategies, all those reasons why they bought our products in the first place, all that proactive stuff's all gone. And they've ended up in 2020 with reactive. Forget that, we're now doing this. Now, we bought your product. Can you help us with this?
And I think you've kind of made a point about risk. So in the world of DevOps, there was this big thing that came out, I think, a decade ago, which was called continuous delivery, right? And the rationale behind continuous delivery was risk, meaning that if you make changes let's say every month or every 3 months, so the amount of change that you introduce into the service is high, and for that reason the risk is high. So you got to put a lot of controls around it, and so the cycle becomes slower and heavy. And the idea was, let's make a lot of small incremental changes, detect them immediately, detect issues immediately, fix them, and then keep going. I think similar. I've always been a big believer that this agility and continuous and cycles is how it's the best way to run businesses, not just development, everything. But I think our community of customer success has to adopt into this mindset. What does it mean for us? What is this small incremental change, and how could we do it faster? I can tell you that for us in Totango, when we launched our free product beginning of this year and self-service, and kind of embraced all in the product-led growth, we thought we know what we're doing, right? We thought we have a great product. We're just going to put this in front of customers, and they're gonna and we're going to start with the use case. We're going to give everyone the use case of detect risk, and then they will understand the value of Totango beyond that. What we clearly very quickly learned from feedback is, I didn't come for Totango to detect risk. I want to do onboarding, or I don't want to do digital engagement, or I want to do. Everyone has a different motivation.
Right.
And the point I'm making is that we had to iterate on all of our assumptions quickly. And I think what we've been able to do is create a cross-functional team that is being called the growth team, to focus on making those iterations and changes. So again, for customer success, being just within your customer success team, I think it's limiting your ability to make an impact. So I would expect to see more cross-functional teams that are able to impact the end result for the customer, by working in concert and orchestrating activity within the company, not just by functional changes, because just they're too slow.
And these are holistic problems that the customer is facing. They need holistic approaches in terms of how our organization then works together, combines between teams to fix them. So it sounds to me like 2021 is a year for flexibility, for agility, for closeness to the customer, and really understanding the customer, and for incremental innovation, where we're not introducing lots of risk over and above the already high levels of risk, but what we are doing is we are flexing and bending and changing as the needs arise. Okay, well, I think that's a really good kickoff point. The second challenge you mentioned is this: transitioning to the new normal, the remote from everywhere world. So with this challenge, I guess you're saying that from your perspective, remote working is the new normal, and that this new normal is here to stay. It's not just a temporary little thing. There's going to be much more remote from everywhere. That being the case, I guess one could say that we're already seeing companies in various stages and degrees of accepting and dealing with this new normal. But I also wonder that if, for example, big businesses don't return the majority of their staff to for example, the big out-of-town campus office parks, or if children continue to be either full or, say, part-time educated from home, just to give those two examples, whether, aside from the impact on the individual people who undergo the specific change directly, whether there's also a much bigger and more profound societal change going on that we maybe haven't even noticed yet. So over to you, Guy. And of course, please take this challenge wherever you want to go with it, whether relating to sort of the immediate and the direct impact, or the more long-term and indirect effects it might have, or wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So clearly, I don't know how the future is going to fold, but what sounds logical to me is that there are advantages in the remote work and the flexibility that it gives people, and there are disadvantages. We're not used to that, or some of us were not used to that. I think we as people, we are very social animals, and creativity and meeting one another is something that we all look forward to. So my guess is that it's going to stay a mix. And it's going to stay like a mix, and there's going to be a broad range between options. But there's this idea that people have to work from offices. I doubt that this is going to be the majority, which means that this distributed model of multiple time zone, multiple working hours, asynchronous communication. We're going back to being very good at asynchronous videos or asynchronous emails, or documenting things, just because this model that everyone huddle in a conference room to make a decision, whether it's us and our customers or us within our team, I think it's just not going to be feasible for a very long time for many for very good reasons. So I think there's going to be a lot of adaptations in how things should be done. I think things like best practices, standards, operating models, kind of to how we work, what's the level of, what's the standard. I think that's going to be very important for companies to be able to maintain the ability to actually be able to deliver, to have a consistent delivery model for the products, their software, their service levels, their engagement level with customers, and so forth. So I expect that a lot of what we're gonna have is as digital assets that capture or actually mandate best practices and standards, and so forth. So I would see more workflow systems within the enterprise, hopefully not brittle workflows, but workflows that make it easier to to make decisions across. And I would see a lot of, creativity coming through, small teams huddling together physically or remotely over Zoom to come up with decisions and documenting that in a video and distributing that. And I could see all of that happening, which I think is good. Now, you mentioned school, because that kind of gave me a pause, because, I think what we see on the young generation is that school is first and foremost social. The social clique of I've got an elementary school kid, I've got a high school daughter. This has a big impact on their life. Not just their parents' life, it has a big impact on their life. I think we all want to be social. I think the ways in which we're going to be social are going to be very, very flexible. And I think, again, like we said before, embrace change. I would say embrace flexibility. That's, you can either reject that or embrace it. I would suggest embrace flexibility and figure out good ways and learn from others how to do it well.
Because it's coming anyway, right? I mean, it's a big old steamroller. Exactly. You're not going to be able to stop it by ignoring it.
and it has a lot of positives, I think.
I would agree with that. I think there's
positives.
I haven't. I mean, I'm no expert in this field, and I haven't spent my time researching it either. But I'm sure that of the polls that I've seen that I can remember that are so like informal polls, like things on LinkedIn, I am sure that the majority of people are saying, look, I may actually quite like a blend, but I certainly don't necessarily want to go back to full-time office work either. Now that I'm used to a work from home, a remote working, actually, I find that there are certain aspects of it that I find quite good, quite useful, quite helpful in my life. So I agree. I don't think it's going to be the same as it was before. And I agree that that's not necessarily, well, we're all going to work from home and that's that. I think, like you say, there's going to be a blend. And I think from a customer success manager's perspective, I think we need to look at our playbooks. I think we need to look at our customer journeys. And I think we need to, where necessary, update them and recognize that you may not have the same opportunities to do a big workshop with all stakeholders in the same room on a one day, in the office basis, if that's what your playbook says you need to do, as a kickoff about, working out who's impacted and what you're going to do about it. You need to update your workbooks, guys. You need to look at a new and different approach that takes into account the remote from everywhere world, right?
Yeah, and if you want an example that I can share with you from this year,
please do.
Given that we've started with, our mission was to democratize the customer success technology. That's why we came up with a freemium model. Clearly, what it did for our business, it kind of grew the volume of new customers in various sizes. So we had to change the way we do onboarding, right? To be able to be way more scalable. So part of onboarding is writing the product, but some customers want like more of a guided onboarding. And specifically on that, the change that we've made there is we made it from a synchronous process where, to your point, kickoff meeting, decision meeting, and so forth to asynchronous process where our team is giving customers homework. This homework is being documented, it's being reviewed ahead of time, and the meeting is shorter. Yes. Could be more meetings, but the meeting is shorter. Everyone is on the same page and just making the critical decision, articulating them, and then going back into their own times. That allowed us with same effort to scale it much, much more. It also helped the customer to make their own, they don't need to feel that they have to answer all these questions at this 45 minutes and 60 minutes and so forth.
Or even to know the answers ahead of time. And maybe there's a bit of, we'll try it and see going on.
Exactly. So my point being is that it's not all bad. I think there's a lot of good ideas that are being forced out of, asynchronous work that drives good scale and efficiency for the business. And I also think that when we look at the CSAT from the onboarding project, it increased significantly because the customer felt that they are in control, they're informed, they have the time to decide, and they're empowered. So I also think that this model changes the position of, what is the work that people should be doing. And that's one of the thinking that I suggest, that when you think about your customer engagement processes, onboarding, adoption, renewal, upsell, escalation, everything that you do across the customer journey, how can you take advantage of the this flexibility, and how do you can embrace flexibility to make even better outcomes?
All right. Let's move on to your third challenge for 2021, which is re-implementing the customer journey and interaction model for a new digital-first world. So once again, let's start with you describing and explaining the challenge, and then once we've pinned it down in terms of what the challenge is and what its implications are for customer success, we'll go on and look at how we deal with it. So tell me a little bit more about this concept of re-implementing the customer journey and interaction model for a new digital-first world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we touched the last point. We touched a little bit about this. It's remote, different hours, working from home, or working from not from home, working from your Airbnb, working from anywhere. So work from anywhere. So that is one thing. The second thing that we kind of we touched on is before is as consumers, we are seeing different experiences, which are good. They're at scale. They're the way I order food is good. I have a product selection. I choose what I want. I get notifications of where my order is. Someone puts this at the door, takes a picture. I get notifications, and I can add tip later. I mean, this is really, really good experience compared to alternatives. Even when they open here in California, the restaurants now it's shut down again, but for a few months, so the touchless experience was not that bad. Where you come in, your phone, you get the menu, you order, you pay. I mean, even the physical was somewhat infused with a lot of digital experience, which gives you control and efficiency. So I think customer expectations are changing. So it is either because things needs to be done differently, or a different scale, like more efficient with less people and so forth, or meeting a different set of expectations. This is where the advantage that we've got is we can document that in a digital format, right? With the self-service capabilities, with self-service leading to assisted help only when needed, and so forth. So these experiences, adding again this idea of product-led growth, self-service, try and buy, all of that is this is the new normal, right? I mean, we are all, the starting point is we're researching on our phone or on our desktop, which we are tied into most of the day, in order to do something, or in order to buy something or experience something. So I think a lot of the human heavy engagements, which I'm not saying anything against them, might not be relevant for the new normal. So we've got those technologies that enables us to do micro segmentation, micro orchestration, right engagement to the right person at the right time, because we've got all this data that is coming in, and we know everything about the customer, who they are, how they use our product, what they're looking for, which phase of their journey they're at, and so forth. Makes it very, very, you can create great experiences. And if you're not going to do that, then your competitors are going to do that. So you might as well get on with that and compete effectively. So I think that's it, right?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I was thinking, Guy, of the example, let's say, of a motor car manufacturer like BMW or whoever, where 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted to buy a new car, you had to go to the showroom and you had to talk to what was pretty much like the dungeon keeper, the salesperson, who hoarded information and knew stuff. So that's it for part 2 of my conversation with Guy Nirpaz on the 4 challenges for the customer success profession in 2021. Please join Guy and myself for part 3, which we are releasing, of course, as you know already, on January the 1st, the first day of 2021. We are looking forward very much to being with you on that day for the 3rd part. Please do subscribe to practicalcsm.com, and that way we can send you a notification once we are actually published. So that's it from me for now for part 2. Thank you for listening or watching, and we look forward to having you back for part 3. Thank you.